Hi, guys. My name's Todd. Welcome back to the Laundry List. Hope you guys had a great week. We're coming at you live from Old Town Scottsdale, where it is getting busy. The Barrett Jacksons this week, and this is the start of the season.
Start of the season.
Now, and it goes all the way through pretty much the end of May.
Memorial Day.
Yeah. So we're excited. It's hopping. It's popping.
Restaurants are busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to find a parking spot.
It is. It is. And Blake and I have learned a lot this last week. We can't wait to share it with you. We have a very special guest who is our yoga buddy, good friend from yoga, who's, I think, pretty much a diehard. I would say she's one of the
she's
top 10.
She's a cornerstone.
Yeah, for sure.
She's a pillar that the whole thing gets built on.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a fixture at the yoga studio. So, before we get too deep in conversation, Blake, will you read the laundry list and then follow that up with the promises?
Absolutely. This is what some of us have, and then the promises is what we get after. So, number 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. 3, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. 4, we either become alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we became addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment, will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings, which we receive from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. 14, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors.
Excellent stuff.
And then this is the other side. So this is what we get when we do the work. 1, we will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. 2, our self-esteem will increase as we give ourselves approval on a daily basis. 3, fear of authority figures and the need to people please will leave us. 4, our ability to share intimacy will grow inside us. 5, as we face our abandonment issues, we will be attracted by strengths and become more tolerant of weaknesses. 6, we will enjoy feeling stable, peaceful, and financially secure. 7, we will learn how to play and have fun in our lives. 8, we will choose to love people who can love and be responsible for themselves. 9, healthy boundaries and limits will become easier for us to set. 10, fears of failure and success will leave us as we intuitively make healthier choices. 11, with help from our ACA support group, we will slowly release our dysfunctional behaviors. 12, gradually with our higher power's help, we will learn to expect the best and get it.
Great stuff. The promises, they can come true for you too. All you have to do is listen to this podcast and have a little luck, and those promises will come true for you.
Absolutely.
So, Blake, how excited are you to have this guest on today?
I'm super excited. I love having guests. I love when we get to, it amazes me how, you can just be walking around day-to-day life, and so many of the people are having a similar experience with their family dysfunction or an alcoholic in their life or some kind of toxic relationship that we don't even realize. Because a lot of times you feel like these feelings you're having are yours alone and no one else knows what you're going through, when really everyone that you're walking down the street with
has similar
stuff going on. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we asked Brittany, who's our guest today, to come on probably about 2 to 3 hours ago in yoga.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? What do you mean? What's it about? And it's pretty, it was a pretty sharp ask and introduction, but she was so gracious and kind to accept the invitation. And we want to welcome Brittany. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. And, it's like she asked what the podcast is about. I go, it's about relationships, any kind of relationship. Yeah. It's just about how do we have healthy, fulfilled relationships in life and not get stuck in the laundry list, which we just read, and how not to get stuck in being a people pleaser or a rescuer or, basically a job. Like the laundry list is a job, where having healthy, fun, loving relationships is not a job. It's just being yourself.
Right.
And that's what I love, because my whole life I had a job to do. Even as a child, I had a job to do as a son to my parents. I had a job to do with my friends at school. And it was constantly to get validation, approval. I'm good enough. I'm okay. And it was exhausting. And then at 50 years old, I find this shit. And I'm like, wow, there's actually another way to live. Mm-hmm. Like, that's incredible. So welcome to the podcast. And we're excited to hear a little bit about, your story and your history. And what do you do to help yourself to find more joy and happiness in your life? And I know you're going to say yoga, but what do you do in your life to create more joy, happiness, and more meaningful relationships? And, you can start too, where you came from and some of the experiences you had in the past and how that's transformed you into the person you are today.
Well, I was not super prepared for today. So, I'm recently divorced and I was married for 10 years and things didn't work out for us, but I'm kind of on my own journey now because after we got a divorce, I kind of took a dive into more like self-love and doing a lot more yoga. I started working with Dharma recovery.
Sure. I've heard of that. Yep.
Which it's different, but I really like it. So a lot of meditation practice, and it's been helpful. I was an Al-Anon for a long time. I was married to an alcoholic, and so the ups and downs.
So that's
of that
a big
really,
job.
Yeah.
Being married to an alcoholic is a big job.
It definitely was. I think that my relationships, just starting out in my life, weren't always stable. I think my father left when I was a baby. So I grew up with a single parent. She was always working, and it was hard for her to be emotionally available to us. So not
just trying to provide food foundation. And shelter.
Yeah, pretty much. So just ending up in and then she married an alcoholic, and it's kind of the pattern just continued. So I've learned a lot about how I ended up where I was just through therapy. I started doing trauma therapy last year.
So you had to be an adult at a very early age, take care of yourself. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure I was 3 years old taking care of myself.
Jeez, that's terrifying.
Yeah, but it's good for some things too. Right, it's gives you those survival skills. But then I think that once you want healthy relationships, when you're still stuck in that survival mode, you realize it's harder to achieve that.
Right.
Because right now I'm in a new relationship, and I think that it's hard to see things in a good relationship and not be so fearful of the past and living in the past.
I get that.
So,
yeah. Todd and I talk about our first couple relationships after we were married, we were bored.
Oh yeah.
This is boring.
Right.
This is boring.
Where's my current wife?
Where's the anxiety? Where's the shame? Where's the,
exactly.
Where's the fighting?
That's fighting?
Me. I'm I'll start an argument. I'm what am I doing right now? And it's trying to push somebody away.
Yeah.
I think it's just I'm used to that. And it's and he's no, I'm here. I'm not leaving just because you're having a bad day.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. In my mind, we get in a fight, okay, it's over.
I'm just trying to get you out of the room.
Right. Fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that at an early age, the trauma. My mom was she was a yeller and rager, and that got me to do things. When she would get angry and rage, guess what? I would listen. I would clean my room. I would, stop the bad behavior. So it works from the perspective of getting done what she wants to do. But the effects of it is trauma, and the fight or flight response becomes awakened into
Right.
you,
And then you're going to look for somebody that has those qualities when you're looking for a woman.
Totally.
So,
yeah. How can I recreate that feeling again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can for sure relate that I definitely married someone exactly like my mom.
That's what happens.
And you can say that now because you're divorced.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think I said it pre-divorce. I was like, oh, I see this pattern.
Yeah. So has therapy helped you like become aware of some of this stuff? And
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like, I think I would I thought that's the other thing. Is like, I always thought in a relationship, like, oh, I'm the healthy one. He's the sick one. But the thing is like nobody goes into that relationship that's like a healthy person. Like I was codependent,
Yep.
I was always trying to take care of him and like rescue. It's like that from day one. I knew there was
one of the laundry
an
list
issue.
traits. We rescue and then we forget about ourselves.
Forget about
'Cause we're
ourselves,
so
but
busy
you're still
rescuing.
acting crazy.
Right.
It's like I remember one day, just like I was leaving work. Right, it's like I'm going home and I'm worried that he's drinking and he's watching my daughter, and I'm like reversing out of like my parking lot at work, and it's like I'm so panicked that I hit a pole. But I'm so worried about what he's doing, but I'm doing just like erratic behavior as well, just because I'm like always in fear, right? And then I'm like, well, like who am I? And then it just brought out so much. Like I ended up being the rager in the relationship all the time because I was I was so angry and I didn't like who I was turning into, and so a lot of that's fear, right?
So when did you start therapy?
And then like I would go to couples therapy with him because I was never taking care of my own problems, right? It's like, so then that wasn't that helpful for where we were at. And then finally it was like 2 years ago where I finally like started consistently weekly seeing like a trauma therapist, and it helped significantly move like what I was doing. Like I filed for divorce within the next 6 months. Like things were actually like, I was like seeing things how they were, and I was working on me, and I like knew what I needed to do at that point.
So when you were raging, I always loved asking this question because it could go either way. When you were raging, what was his response? How did he act when you were raging?
He would leave. I mean, he would like sometimes I think near the end, it would be like more like shut down. He'd leave.
So he wouldn't rage
conflict.
back.
Now he does. Now he will. I think it's harder because he doesn't know how to control his emotions, not drinking. I think that it's a little harder. Like, I mean, he's doing good today, but it's like mostly would be more of a shutdown kind of.
And that was my response. And a lot of it's what you're used to as a kid.
Right.
It's like, someone's yelling and raging at me, I'm shutting down.
And leave.
Conflict avoidant. I want peace. I don't want anybody yelling at me.
And I'll do anything to make the
Let me
yelling
find
stop.
a corner so where I can just hide and like feel peace.
Yeah. And then it would be with anything. He'd be like ready for things to be bad. So it's like he'd just try to like avoid any kind of conflict, right? Even if it could have a resolution.
And I think I was addicted to the feeling you get when there's rage. Like there's adrenaline and cortisol and rapid heartbeat and like just your blood pressure is way up. Like I got addicted to the physical feeling that comes with being angry and raging, and I hate it. Yeah. I literally hate it.
Right. Well, and then there's like, it's like anger can be also productive sometimes. So it's like crossing the line between, is it better to be angry when you're going through things? Sometimes it does motivate you. It gets you
I
to
think
move.
anger is great.
Yeah.
But I think rage is horrible.
Rage is terrible.
I think anger is a healthy emotion to show because it's showing your truth.
Right.
I was so busy people pleasing that I never told people my real feelings and how I feel. And now it's like, I'm angry and that was fucked up what you did. And I want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I could have a normal conversation being angry and not throwing shit and yelling and screaming because that's intimidation and fear. But I could have a normal, healthy conversation like, I'm angry and here's why I'm angry.
Right.
And then we could like just talk about it.
Exactly.
And that's new behavior. I thought if you're going to be angry, you got to rage,
Well, and then it's like growing up in homes like that, right? It's like, it's either good or bad, or like you're angry or happy. It's like there's more emotions than that, right?
It's like those are the only two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started raising yourself at 3 years old and siblings?
I had 2 older brothers. I mean, it wasn't all bad, right? It's like I had grandparents around that I think they showed like a healthy relationship to me. So I
And
did
how was your
see
relationship with your brother?
my
Your
brothers? Pretty good. Like the oldest one, super close. And then the
What are
middle,
the age differences?
So there's one is 4 years older, one is 13 months apart.
Okay. So were you closer to the 13
Oldest.
month? Oh, the oldest.
Oldest, yeah. I think that's just like personality differences too.
So growing up, did you guys all do stuff together or were they like everyone in their own little?
They kind of hung out more because they were the boys, but then I had like my mom got remarried too, so then we had a blended family as well. So it was like at one point there was 5 of us, all 1 year apart. So they had like a 7th grader, 8th, 9th.
That
10th,
sounds
11th.
fun.
I mean, it was crazy, right?
Like the
And
Brady
then-
Bunch.
Well, then it's like, we brought in the alcoholism from my stepdad. It's like, and then just raising like teenagers too, right? It was kind of.
And was he very present as a parent or was he more checked out? Or
My stepdad, I mean, he was a pretty functioning alcoholic. So,
went to work?
yeah, I went to work, took care of the house. My mom went to nursing school while she was married to him. And like, I mean, our lives were definitely improved at the point where we had him in the picture, right? And I was pretty close. I think when he finally went into a program and like they were addressing like our family systems, right? I was the hero of the family. So I kind of kept things together. And it's not the best role, to be honest with you.
Blake and I were heroes.
You were?
Or hero childs, yeah.
Yeah. But
Hero adults. We're
it's
still
hard.
heroes.
I mean, I thought it sounded great when they told it to me, but I'm like, it can actually be the worst.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, people pleasing. And yeah, I was close to everybody. I was close to his daughters, my brothers.
Are they still married?
No,
They got divorced?
they got divorced. So my mom 2 times, no luck.
And all right, do you still have a relationship with him, the
Him and I
stepfather?
were close for a while too. He was close to my ex-husband as well too. And like I don't speak to him as much. I think he kind of struggles still. But
And how about the siblings?
I talked to them. Yeah, I'm going to go to a birthday party. I'll probably see him there. But my stepsister has a little girl. She's turning 2 and still talk to her.
That's
I see her
cool.
when
So
I
the
go to
family's
California.
still, in
Just with
contact.
me though. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm the one link.
The connector.
Yeah.
Well, you're the hero. That's what heroes' jobs are. Make sure everyone's happy, make sure everyone's connected.
Exactly.
Make sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I always liked them. So
Yeah.
yeah. It's different when you have, it's like my ex stepsister, like,
Yeah. Well, look, it's always better to come from a place of love
Yeah.
and friendship and peace than a place of anger, resentment, and judgment, you know,
Right.
no matter who you're dealing with, you know. And I always say, like, when someone's treating you poorly that you don't like to be treated, you have a choice. You can reflect back what they're doing to you. So this person's being a dick to me. I'm going to fucking be a dick back to him. Or I can internalize it, which I did a lot. You know, this person's being a dick to me and I'm just going to shut down. Or I can transform and be like, this person's being a dick to me. They're obviously in a bad space. They're in fear and I'm going to be nice back,
Yeah.
you know, and because that's who I am, you know. It's hard to do because when someone's really a dick to me, it's really hard, but I'm trying. Like that's my big project for the last couple of years is like to transform how I treat somebody else when they're treating me like shit.
yeah. And you can change everything, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the things you do today besides yoga that make you feel good about yourself, that like give you peace? Like, do you have a relationship with God or prayer or meditation? What does all that look like?
Well, you know, like I said, I was doing the Dharma recovery.
So there's a lot of meditation in that because I went to a few of those meetings.
Yeah.
And
It's great. I mean, I feel like
did you ever read Dharma Punks, that book?
I have heard of it, but
Yeah.
I
love
actually
that
haven't-
book.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, their program's pretty simple, but I liked it because it wasn't super strict. It was like, I didn't
It wasn't
feel like
so 12-step based
you
and
weren't
rule
identifying,
based. Right.
You didn't have to say like, oh, I'm an addict, I'm this, but like, I feel like it works with like the process addictions, like codependency.
Totally.
Just a different, but you're also not, it's from like a Buddhist kind of standpoint, right? So I love that just because it's like, easy for me. But so there's that. And
So
then
you got into meditation.
because I think my nervous system was so wrecked from like all the years of like being in a dysfunctional home, dysfunctional marriage.
So was it hard to you to your sympathetic nervous system to just calm down and just like relax?
Oh yeah.
And just, like I did a lot of somatic therapy after my son passed, and it was like, oh my God, it was so healing. Cause I was like, I didn't realize it. And she would literally just touch me and my whole body would be like, oh.
Totally. Yeah. No, sometimes I'd walk in her office and I'd just be like, she like knew that I was like in a bad state, and she'd just be like, just sit with it. Like, and we're going to do like stuff with your body. Like, you're not even talking today. And like, cause sometimes that's just what I need.
Oh, you've done some somatic?
Therapy, that trauma therapist was actually like based off of a somatic practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same one. Yeah. I went to one that was awesome I just stopped going in May, or summer, but I love it. I mean,
it's great.
And now I do a lot of Reiki.
Do you?
Yeah.
I've wanted to try it. So I'm doing breath work, like a lot. That's one of the things that I realize has helped.
Do you go to Colton for that?
I haven't, but I've heard of him. My friend Jeff, I met him in Dharma. He actually leads some of those breath works, and
it's so hard.
It is hard. It's like, crazy.
Like I always want to go, but I'm like, it's such a lot of work.
Well, it's heavy. It's like, and you also don't know how deep you're going to go. He's always like, you're not going deep enough. Cause like sometimes you, if you really like get into it, heavy stuff can come out. Right.
Oh, I was crying.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it with Colton and it was 4 hours, and 2 hours into it. God. I mean, I was exhausted first of all, but 2 hours into it, like all of a sudden I just started crying. Like I have no idea why. I don't even remember what I was thinking about. Like just emotion came up. Yeah. And,
well, it's like you're going into a subconscious. So a lot of people say it's like doing a session, like a few sessions of EMDR, just like from one session of breath work, like, cause you're working through stuff and it's like, it's not always conscious what you're pulling out.
Right.
Yeah. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
So.
How about, psychedelics? Have you ever?
I have not, but I'm interested.
Blake's looking away as I say that. Like I'm 25 years sober and I do ketamine.
Yeah.
And I've done MDMA and journeys. To me, it brings me closer to my higher self and to God.
Yeah.
And to my son who passed. Like, I mean, to me, there is no question the universe wants me to do this. Like there is no question.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that are sober, like, it's like, but for me, I'm not doing it to get high. There's no one around when I do it. I have a mask on and I am going to connect with God and my son. Like, and it's, awesome. and I get that energy. Yeah. I could do it without it. I did 2 sessions of hypnotherapy with no medicine at all. And one session I recorded it. It's 4.5 hours long and I left my body and I saw God. I felt God. I didn't want to come back. I mean, during the recording, it's like, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back. It was that euphoric feeling that I think we experience before we're born and after we die, that like I was one with the universe. I was one with God. I was one with every single living thing that ever lived, and it was like, oh my God, this feels so good. And I listen to it probably every month because I want to remind myself that's really who I truly am. Mm-hmm. I'm not this body. Right. This body is having a human experience, but I'm a spiritual being. That's who I truly am. And I forget that because I get so wrapped up in the 3D world of this guy cut me off and this guy screwed me in business and my stock portfolio's down. And this girl, gave me the, cold shoulder and blah, 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 and I get so wrapped up in the response of that. But when I go listen to that 4.5 hour experience I had, I'm like, wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And if you ever want to do it, I'll give it to her. It's an Israeli woman in Chandler, and she trained for 3 years under sort of the master in this space called Dr. Newton in Minnesota. He's written a bunch of books, and she trained with him. And it takes her about an hour to get you to leave your body. And she has a whole technique on how to do that. Oh my God. And then you literally leave your body. And when I came back into my body 4 hours later, in the recording, I had this 800-pound rock on my stomach and sternum, like, ow, this hurts. Like, and I was coming back into my body.
Oh my God.
And I had no idea about any of this. Like, I was just in pain from my son passing. Like, I needed relief.
Yeah.
So someone told me to go to her, and it was unbelievable.
And that was that the MDMA?
No, there's no medicine. Yeah.
Okay.
And I had such visuals, such incredible visuals, such feelings. I mean, it's the only time I've really, truly experienced God. What I consider God. It's the oneness of all of us.
And, maybe at some point we can cut it up, and because there's some stuff, because you've shared bits and pieces of that, and it's like, it, gives me kind of goosebumps just, thinking about it. And I didn't even go through it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. She just had a baby, but I'm going to start going back to her again. But, I saw a little bit of a past life.
God.
Back, I'm guessing the 1700s, 1800s, like in a Western area. But like, I don't know where this stuff comes from. Like, am I making it up? Is my subconscious, or did I really have a life back then? Because I believe time's not linear once you pass.
Right.
Like, it's linear for us, because we're physical. But like, once you're not, and there's no linear time, like it's all sort of happening, So anyway, it's a great experience. And I'm always curious on what works for people to have a better life, and you talk meditation, you talk the breath work. What does yoga do for you to have a better life?
I mean, I feel like
besides getting a good physical workout.
Well, and that's the kind of yoga that I've seen you at. That's more of like a workout yoga, but I do think that there's calmer like classes.
Like yin
too.
Or
but even that, I've always been an active person, and I think that's something I used even as a kid, like just to get through like hard times. Like my nervous system, it just waking myself up, or like I like high intensity stuff.
So what does that do to your nervous system, the high intensity stuff? Does it like calm you down? Does it calm your mind down?
Yeah, I think
you sleep better.
I do, because it's like the afterwards I'm calmer. But and I used to run a lot.
Get the runner's high.
Yeah, I just need to move. I knew that about myself, or else there's too much.
I get depressed when I stop working out.
Right.
Like I had a vasectomy reversal 5 months ago, and I couldn't work out for 6 weeks.
Oh no.
And I literally was like, I'm depressed. Like, I'm home, I'm depressed, I'm sad. Like, and once I started working out again, I'm like, oh, I feel great.
Well, that's what it is. It's because you do get dopamine.
No question.
So I think my ex used to always say that like I was like addicted to it, but it's like it wasn't that. It was that
healthy, though.
I knew I needed to do it to be a better person, to show up as a better mom, a better spouse, whatever it is. It's like you don't want to be around me if I'm not. So,
right. So you're irritable. You're like short. Yeah.
But I think I figured that out as a kid. It's like I was a gymnast, and then I just was always in sports, and I knew I needed to be moving.
So what are some of the things you want to work on in the future, or really now, but also in the future, that will make you happier in life, more fulfilled? I always say you got to write your eulogy now when you're young before you die, to kind of know what you want to do in your life.
Right.
Because a lot of people get to like 70 years old and they're 80 years old and they die, and it's like, I didn't do anything I really wanted to do.
Right.
Like, and I'm not talking like bucket list, like skydive, or like, but who do you want to become in your life, and how do you get there?
I think for me, I think self-love is like a big part of like just embracing like who I truly am. Like, not people pleasing, not wanting to like be somebody that everybody else wants me to be, like finding who I am. I think once you're a parent and like a spouse, and like you kind of lose yourself throughout that whole process.
Taking care of everybody.
And I was always doing that, right? It's like I went from my mom's house to straight into a relationship, and then I was married young, kid young, and all those things. It's like I really didn't ever spend time alone, right? So it's like even with this divorce, like having like spending time alone when he has my daughter, it's like that was interesting just to experience, because it's like, are you comfortable alone?
Yeah, what'd that look like?
At first it was like, and I kind of love to do things alone, but like that was weird, like not being in my house alone, right? And now I'm like enjoying it. Like I enjoy that time, and I think that's a true like telltale of like how healthy you are. Like if you can spend time alone.
Yeah, Blake and I talk about that all the time, because I know after I got divorced, I couldn't be alone for 5 seconds.
Well, it's weird,
like,
right?
I'm
You're
like,
so
I need
codependent.
somebody constantly to be with
Anybody.
me. Right, anybody.
Yeah.
And now I love my solitude. Like my wife, you know, she's gone till 8 tonight, and I'm like going to go home and read a book and watch TV and hang out with my dogs and walk in the backyard. And it's like, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But boy, as a kid, I can never be alone.
It's like you feel sick or something. And yeah.
Well, that's the laundry list. Like I constantly need stimulation, approval, validation.
Addicted to excitement.
Like I need all this to be okay. And then when you peel all that back and you're like, I can just be with myself all weekend and have a great weekend, and not even look at my phone for 2 days.
Exactly.
And that's new behavior. But that's only because I've done the work.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that it all starts there. It's like, so I've just been doing a lot of things with like self-love, but what was the question again?
Like, what are some of the things that you want to do in your life to like create more joy, happiness, peace, serenity, you know?
Oh, I'm trying to figure it out still. I mean, I think
I would say like, what are your passions? Like, just do what you like. Do what makes,
I think I'm doing it. I think it's like, I found like, I think I know who I am. I know what I like. I want to travel.
You like your
more.
profession?
I do. I like doing hair. I think it's like I have fun at work every day. Like I like making people feel good about themselves, helping people. I think sometimes I want to like go into different avenues, but at the same time, like it allows me a little more freedom to still do the things I like with like the time that I spend there. I'm not there full time, and I can still go to breath work, go to yoga, see friends, do things.
Do you like your friend group?
You know, I think this year I've really like changed like how many people I'm letting in my life. I used to try to like people please and have all these different friend groups, right?
So is your circle getting smaller?
It's smaller, right? It's like the healthier you become that you realize maybe you weren't around some people that were not that good for you. And I think that's hard. I think that's hard at first too, because it's like it gets smaller as you get healthier because you realize some people are sick and they're not good for you.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. My circle's gotten way smaller these last few years, but
which is it feels lonely sometimes, but it's okay.
Yeah, I like it because I used to be in the car. I was the guy in the car that always had to be on the phone, and now 90% the time I'm in the car, I'm listening to a podcast, a YouTube video, music, and enjoying it myself. But before, I had to be talking to somebody all the time.
I was,
But Blake and I remember I was always a big gossiper and guy who like judged other people, character assassin other people. And it's because I was scared and in fear. But I remember like hanging around Blake for a while, and Blake, like I would just be nailing a guy and just talking about him. And Blake would just sit there, you know, and like he wouldn't jump in. He would just like sit there. Good. And I'm like, I kind of feel weird. You know, I kind of feel stupid, like talking about this guy and gossiping, and Blake's not saying anything, you know? So now, like, I try to hang out with people that have similar values, morals, ambitions, like things that make me want to be a better person.
Exactly.
Because I know when I was drinking, my core group, it was pure debauchery.
Right.
And it was pure, like, just talking shit about people, who had the most money, who's getting the hottest girl, who has the coolest car. And it was very shallow. It was very empty. And I was very lonely.
Exactly.
You know? And now it's like, I want to leave relationships, like leaving this podcast. I'm going to go home feeling great about myself.
Exactly.
And feeling like healthy and feeling balanced, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, because I just got divorced in May, and my circle definitely has gotten smaller.
Right.
And at first you're panicking because you're like going through the abandonment of, you know, all these friends leaving you. And really it's just as you get healthier, the people that surround yourself with now are just completely different. And now my circle is if I can't call you and, you know, tell you the bad stuff first and, you know that like everything's like, I can be if I can't be myself around you and you still like me, then I don't want you to be in my life.
Right.
And it's, you know,
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want, right? It's like, and that's where it's hard in like newer relationships. I'm always like I'm like when I have a bad time and I'm like the person I'm dating now, it's like, for instance, like if I'm struggling or I'm doing like things that I did in past relationships, I'm waiting for him to walk away, right? Like, and like leave and be like, oh, this is crazy. And he's like, like one day I was like just crying and like I was in the bathtub and he like came, he's like just sitting there next to me and like didn't want to leave. And I was like, you don't want to be here. This isn't a good time. And he's like, I'm not leaving. I'm here for all of it. And I'm like, that's so interesting to hear. Cause like, I thought those characteristics were bad, but I was like, I'm feeling feelings and just having a bad night. Right. Yeah. It's like,
and you feel safe
and
having
I feel
that
safe.
response.
Yeah.
Because so many people that are dysfunctional that live in the laundry list are like, oh, you're crying, you're freaking out. Okay, I'm getting out of here.
Oh, my whole family. My whole family does. My mom does.
I can't
it.
deal with that. Yeah.
During my whole divorce, it was like that. It was my mom was like, every time I got too emotional, like she would help me with my kid and stuff, but it was like if it got emotional or I started like saying anything heavy, she was out. She was like, this is too much. And I know that, and I accept that now. I used to try to like change how she was, which was like another sick quality, right?
Yeah, and that's never going to happen. Anyway,
no. So it's like, you just know that like the people that you let in, like they have to be like safe and healthy people or else it's like, they're gone. I don't need that. I don't need bad relationships.
So we were just talking about this at lunch before we came on the podcast. I was always a really, really bad ender in relationships. Like when I knew it was over, especially when I was young, I mean, I would cheat or ghost them or not call them back or just like be mean to them. So they would break up with me.
Yeah.
Because I was too scared to stand up for myself and say, this just is not what I'm looking for. And I think we should go our separate ways. Like a healthy, normal adult conversation.
Right.
I would have all this childish behavior to get the result that I wanted, you know? And we were talking about how Blake, you know, and Alex like are just more adult and like, this is just not what I'm looking for. Yeah. And I appreciate your time. I wish you the best. Yeah. And, you know, I hope everything goes your way.
And how much easier is that, right?
So like, much easier.
It's like going through that whole mental state of like how you're going to make somebody do this behavior.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. You know, and I shared a text that I got from someone where, you know, they just basically said, hey, I've enjoyed talking with you and, you know, I'm exploring something with somebody else and, you know, sorry for being brutally honest. And in a previous, you know, when I'm people pleasing and codependent, I would have been like, oh, no, like, you know, I would just, instead I was just like, hey, I appreciate your honesty and I wish you all the best as well.
See,
you know,
and that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you either.
Or bargain, right?
Yeah.
Cause I'm a king of bargaining.
You're like, well, let me see how I can shift this.
Yeah. Like it's okay. I mean,
yeah. It's such a relief to not live in that laundry list. I mean, have you ever heard that laundry list before?
I have. I went to an ACA meeting, a couple of them, and I was like, I mean, it's frightening because I identified with the whole list, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't really like embraced that program fully. I was like not ready for it, but I probably should.
Yeah. I always say like, for me, the program, like I try to like do the work up front from the childhood part. And then leave it there.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't want to blame my parents for anything.
Right,
I love my parents.
State,
my
right?
parents are amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fucking hard job. I mean, I'm a parent. Like,
you know,
it's a hard job. And, you know, there's got to be love and compassion and empathy for your parents, regardless of what they did. I mean, it could be horrible stuff, you know, and it's just,
and they were just doing the best they could with the tools that they had.
You know?
Yeah, because then when you come from that state, you're just pissed. And it's like not productive.
And I see that a lot in ACA. I see people that just stay there.
I got in that state for a while. I was like, this is why I picked a bad marriage.
You're the
like,
victim.
It's all your fault. And it's like, no.
There's no more victim.
Yeah.
Like, when you're an adult, the victim goes away.
Yeah.
Like you got to just stand up for yourself. Okay, I'm here now. Everything that happened was supposed to happen. Why? Because it did happen.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to use that, like you said earlier, to like benefit me and become a better person.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think the one thing that you and I have in common and, you know, through all that we've gone through in the last year and a half is that there's always something good that's going to come out of it, you know, and whatever it is, there's always something that's, you know, being taught or, you know, we talked about it last week. Like Todd asked me like, hey, you know, could you accept if that for your journey in this body, in this life is to make you so you're comfortable being alone and you're never in a romantic relationship, never in, you know, and the answer probably is yes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, I love solitude. I hate isolation.
Me too.
I see isolation just kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and it just brings them to their knees. And that's why they start doing drugs and drinking, and because they need some relief.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but when that mind is telling me I'm no good, people don't like me, you could just keep digging the hole until you just can't go on anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's what I'm telling myself to me is that's a big part of the self-love, that I am magnificent. I am amazing. I am a spiritual, eternal being, just having a human experience. I am love.
Yeah.
Like the more I tell myself these things, the more I could actually live it.
When it changes everything around, it's crazy. It's like when you have all this negativity in your head, which that's probably my biggest struggle, right? It's like just quieting that mind. That's why I need a lot of the meditation and stuff like that. But it's like, if you come into it with a different perspective, it shifts the people around you.
No question. Energy shifts.
Yeah.
I mean,
it attracts.
My son called 911 a month ago, and they rushed him to the hospital, and I'm following them in my car, and I'm running every red light. I'm going 120 miles an hour down to Indian School. And like, I'm sure other cars are like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, it's like, and I gotta remember, like, I was in a fight or flight panic mode. How many times have I gotten upset at someone on the road and they could have been experiencing a similar experience? Yeah. Where's the compassion? Where's the empathy?
Yeah.
I wanted people to have compassion, empathy for me when I was doing that.
Right.
So why can I not have that for other people?
Exactly.
Like, instead of like, oh, you missed the goddamn turn. You're on your phone. What the fuck? You know, it's like, and it's just chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
There are no big deals, you know?
You're right. Yeah, because you're just like, this guy's just in a rush to get somewhere.
Who does he think he is in his Porsche going 120 miles an hour?
Right.
You're like, yeah, because you never know what battle someone's fighting.
Never.
And everybody is, and to some degree, right?
And that's kind of,
And even if you know them, you don't know.
For sure.
Exactly.
I mean, most people don't share intimately their fears, their concerns, their despair. Like they keep a facade on. They keep the image on, the wall up. You know, some people in 12-step program have brought it down a little bit because we are so used to opening up.
Yeah.
But most
still.
people, most
They can't
human
handle
beings
it.
are taught to put on that stoic, straight face, like everything's great, you know, and they're just dying inside and they're just like having a hard time getting through the day.
It's true.
It makes me think about it because I used to, Todd used to call me out point blank, how are you doing, Blake? I'm like, I'm great. He's like, no, like really, like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And now it's like, I can be like,
Right.
I'm.
Well, once you get comfortable that you're not going to get judged,
For sure.
and you can open up on how you're really doing,
Absolutely.
you actually look forward to it. You're like, oh, I could actually tell people what's really going on, and they're going to love me even more. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to put on like, this bullshit.
I'm stressed
But we're,
about
like,
this.
taught that too, right? It's
Well,
like,
I mean, I was similar to your mom, like growing up, like, if I cried, it was like, I'll give you something to cry about. Stop fucking crying.
Yeah.
And I was not taught to express emotions in my household.
Yeah.
Because they weren't taught
But
to
I
express
was always
emotions.
very emotional. Like I feel like I was still trying to be emotional. It just wasn't being validated, right? And so I was
For sure.
And still, it's like as an adult, I struggle with this like validation thing from these people that will not give it to you. So you have to learn how to do it.
Well, that's where you try the hardest.
Oh my God.
So
It's
my
like,
mom
what is
wouldn't give
wrong?
it to me. My dad gave it to me 24/7.
Yeah.
You're the greatest tennis player. You're an awesome son. Called me Butch.
That's good,
and
though.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But guess where I tried my hardest and spent all my time trying to get my mom's approval and validation.
And then it turned into your relationships.
Right, exactly.
With women. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And I did the work, thank God. And
Yeah.
I don't have that in my current relationship today.
Yeah.
I mean, she's incredible and gives me a lot of praise and validation, but like, I don't look for it like I did.
Well, it's internal anyways. It's like if you don't actually believe those things, like
Well, then you're going to constantly need
Right.
it from everybody else.
exactly.
That's why social media, I think, is not good for us in general.
I don't
because
like it.
you get, guess what? Oh, this person didn't like me. This person made a bad comment about me. It's like, it's almost manipulating people to give you what you're looking for.
Right. It's like some of the most depressed people are like posting all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're not happy. So
Yeah. And it also is a way of just being disassociative and daydreaming, I find. Because the way did you ever watch that show, The Social Dilemma?
Yeah, I did.
about all the Facebook
and
executives.
I think it was pretty accurate.
I think it was pretty accurate too.
It was like,
it's like they create this crack pipe, and it's like, we're going to get you hooked and addicted to where you can't put it down. You're going to be scrolling for the rest of your life because you can't put it down.
Yeah.
You just want
And you're just
eyeballs on
checked out.
screens.
You're checked out for life.
Well, it's like another process addiction thing,
No
right?
question.
Yeah. So especially if you're an addict, you're like, I gotta be careful with this.
Yeah.
We did know social media for a while.
Yeah. And I'm
I
pretty
think
good on it
easy.
now.
Yeah, but I also think that I've found there's a lot of good stuff on social
there is
media.
my
some
feed on
good.
Instagram now is all spiritual stuff.
Yeah, if
I got rid of
That's good.
all the bullshit.
I had a girl on a first date. She's like, "Hey, pull up your Instagram." And I was like, "What?" And she clicks on the search thing to
see what kind of
She's
stuff?
like, "What kind of?" Because she's like, "It's the easiest way to tell if someone's like what kind of person they are with what pops up there."
So I had 900.
I'm like, I have
I want you to look at mine.
I have no like. She's like, "Wow, like you don't even have any like models on here, like you know." And it's all
Right.
like
Oh, yeah.
podcasts and you know.
I'm married to a woman who's 30, what is she, 35, 36, and she literally has like no social media.
Good.
She's got a burner
don't
account
do
now.
enough.
Well, she has a burner account, but she has no one follows her.
No.
It's a burner account. And
I think
she,
that's great.
you know, she needs nothing from anybody. Because how many women and men are constantly posting selfies and pictures of them? And
I mean, for
not.
the longest time, I let all of my ex-wife's friends follow me. And I finally figured out that I was doing stuff and posting things
to get back to her.
to get a reaction.
Right.
We're really that's sick.
Right.
Like that's unhealthy.
Yeah,
And so
she hurt me, I'm going to hurt her.
And I made this decision that I'm just going to remove all of that. And if I post something, I'm not posting to try to hurt someone.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, because when you do those needles and the needles come back your direction, if you're not ready for them, you know, it can be like you're going to get hurt too. Right.
Yeah.
Where, you know, and now I have a position of, you know, I had someone send me some stuff like of her and she's lost a bunch of weight. And, you know, I just have the position of like, oh, you know, I'm so happy for her. She looks great. And, you know, I wish her all the best, you know.
I mean, that is the thing too. It's like, I want my ex to be happy. I want things to go well.
Yeah.
I want him to find like somebody that makes him happy. Like we weren't happy, you know, it's like, so he's in a relationship now and I hope
You weren't
I
your
hope it
best
goes
self.
well.
And it's pretty
He brought out the worst.
And it's pretty interesting and I don't know if this is the case for you, as I've gotten healthier, I almost wonder like if I had gotten this healthy,
Would you have dated her in the first place?
would I have dated her in the first place? Or on the other flip side, would she have even dated me?
Yeah.
Because we're in different realms. And I sent Todd a video and it's like, you know, eventually as you're going through this healing process, your ex-partner won't even you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
My ex and I are so different than we were.
Well, I mean,
so different than we were 28 years ago.
Just
now.
how you move around and operate in your house is completely different than
And we're
when-
like best friends.
Oh yeah, I was like on edge. One time I watched a video of me, like my camera caught me. They had like a camera that was facing indoors. I'm like, I just run around here like a mad. Like I was so unhappy and like unaware of it, just like in flight or fight constantly. But like,
Because when you have a job to do, you don't have to feel feelings.
exactly.
You know, when you're doing your laundry list job, whichever one of the 13 it is, like you're doing your job, you don't have to feel feelings and be intimate and be real.
Just keep moving.
Just keep moving.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
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 So what would you tell our listeners out there that are still in that fight or flight and still in that struggle to reduce the adrenaline and the cortisol and just chill the fuck out and learn to find themselves and love themselves? Like, what would you tell them right now that they're really struggling?
I mean, like, I think it starts with just taking care of yourself and like, I mean, learning about maybe your childhood or your past and relationships and kind of, I think being alone for a certain amount of time too, right? It gives you that space to actually like learn about you.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into something else, you're not bringing all this crap in, or you can start doing the work and like identify like what you need and like what you bring to the table, right? Because I think that if you don't develop a sense of self, when you're in your next relationship, it can turn into the same codependency crap and like
Just don't leave me.
Yeah.
I don't care how shitty it is. I don't care that we won't get along. I don't care that everything you see in life is black and everything I see in life is white. Just don't leave me. I don't want to feel those feelings.
Even if it's terrible.
Even
right?
if it's terrible.
Yeah. And we shouldn't be suffering. We shouldn't do it for the kids. Like
Right.
we shouldn't have to be in relationships that are not bettering us. Like I want to be with somebody that makes me feel more confident about myself, that lifts me up, that like I can talk to about all my emotions and feelings. And if I have a bad day, a good day, they're still there,
Right.
you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's great
I
stuff.
don't know if I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I don't have all the answers,
Well, I
but I
think
feel
that's
like I'm
what
in a
life
better
is.
place than I was
Life
last
is the
year.
journey. There is no destination.
Yeah.
It's just the journey.
Get in the middle of the river and enjoy the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great Buddhist saying. It's just,
Yeah.
you just flow with the river. When you try to swim upstream, besides salmon, your life's going to be terrible.
Right.
Just go with the flow.
You have to and let go.
And it's hard. There are some things that happen in life that fucking suck. And you just got to go with the flow,
Yeah. Like, I mean, like running into you guys, I think everything happens for a reason.
Right.
It's
For
like,
sure.
just like supposed to meet different people and things fall into place when you're not holding on so tight,
Yep.
Like
that song, Hold On Loosely, and just let go.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, Brittany. I really enjoyed it. And we look forward to, having you back on in maybe a year and kind of checking in with you. And we'll send you this podcast when it's out, and appreciate it very much.
We'll see you at Core Power.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Little plug for Core Power.
Gotta plug the plug.
All right, guys, have a great week. Enjoy your late January, and we will see you next week on the laundry list.